Hi, it's Dwyer, gamblersadvisory.com. Remember, the opinion you should follow should be your own. Just consider this video to be a second opinion from a complete stranger online. If you're in the United States, do you remember the days when Andre Ward won a gold medal in the Olympics? The days when guys like Antonio Tarver, Floyd Mayweather, Roy Jones, all of whom are active fighters, Evander Holyfield, actually got medals in the Olympics. And of course, there are many others, right? Old-timers who are no longer fighting, Oscar De La Hoya, Ray Leonard. You remember when you watched an Olympic Games and you were thrilled to see U.S. guys on the medal stand, right? Deontay Wilder, one of the current medalists. Well, you're going to have to stick to those old memories because, incredibly, our 2012 men's team has now officially been shut out, right? We're not just winning no gold medals. Folks, we're not winning any silver or bronze medals, right? Our team is headed home. Now, this is really indicative of a much bigger crisis in the United States in boxing, as exemplified by our lead heavyweights, boxing senior citizen Tony Thompson, Chris Arreola, Seth Mitchell, and Travis Walker, right? None of those names really have you thinking of the Klitschko brothers, Alexander Povetkin, or Orlando Solis. Right? And so, just food for thought. U.S. boxing right now really is hitting all-time lows. I can't recall the last time our men went to an Olympic Games and got shut out. We're winning as many gold medals here as we did in the Olympic Games in Moscow, which we boycotted. Okay, let's go one step further. Speaking of Travis Walker, Travis Walker is actually having a fight on September the 8th at the Prudential Center in New Jersey against Tomas Adamek. Now, this is how bad heavyweight boxing has become in the United States. Travis Walker is one of our shining lights, having held his own against Ruslan Shagayev, having gone the distance against Kubrat Pulev, having knocked down Chris Arreola before getting himself knocked out. And I can just say that even after Tomas Adamek's beating at the hands of Vitaly Klitschko, I'm expecting Adamek to be a wide favorite over Travis Walker. Okay, let's move along. On the Vitaly Klitschko versus Manuel Charr fight, and let's just say I hope they have a good doctor at ringside because Charr's going to need one as that fight unfolds. But be that as it may, one of the more intriguing names in the heavyweight division, Magomed Abdusalamov. In fact, let me try the name again because I botched the last name. It's Magomed Abdusalamov, right? He's 15-0 with 15 knockouts. How big's his punch? Although the guy has fought 15 times, understand that none of his victims has made it to the 5th round. And he's fighting Jamil McCline. By the way, you'll notice, even though Jamil McCline is American, I did not include Jamil McCline in my list of top American heavyweights. Anyway, Jamil McCline is 43 years old. What that means is that on a fight card with Vitaly Klitschko, who I believe himself is 39 or 40, Vitaly is not going to be the oldest guy fighting on that card. That's how ridiculous boxing has become. In any event, Jamil McCline, who in interviews said that he was retiring, said that he had lost it, now is not only back at boxing, somehow he's fighting on the undercard 2 world heavyweight matches. Well, this is really a fight that needs to be seen. I've seen Abdusalamov And I have to admit, I'm a skeptic. He seems like just a puncher. He doesn't seem like he's able to really do anything else. And I wonder what he would do against a heavyweight who can put a jab in his face, fight off his back foot, take him where he's never been. In other words, the 5th round, right? Get him a little bit tired, have him thinking about the possibility that he might not get a knockout that night. I think he's vulnerable. I think he would fall apart against a Klitschko. But we'll all have an opportunity to watch this for ourselves as he fights big Jamil McCline, who might not have the talent of the Klitschkos, but at least he's a big heavyweight with some boxing skills. He used to spar back in the day with Lennox Lewis, right? He knows how to comport himself in the ring. He once had a fight where he knocked down Sam Peter multiple times. I'm not saying Jamil McCline is, a top 10 fighter, but what I am saying is he's that savvy veteran type guy who's been in the ring with talented individuals, who, if he's facing a guy who only has a big punch and not a lot of boxing technique, as I believe Abdusalamov has, I think Jamil McCline is going to at least give us some kind of litmus test on whether his opponent can actually fight. So that's all I have today. Let me add one other story. Looks like David Haye is going to get back in the ring, and it's for charity. He's going to be fighting a British actor, Tom Hardy. You always hear about boxers getting arrested, doing the wrong thing. Let's focus on some of the other stories where boxers like David Haye are actually doing a lot of work for charity. Let's remember, David Haye had a bet with Derek Chisora that if either one of them got knocked out, the loser would have to donate to charity. Right? David Haye is one of these guys who behind the scenes is doing a lot of good work. Keep an eye on that upcoming David Haye versus Tom Hardy fight. And if Haye's like Ali, don't be surprised if he hits the canvas a few times against Tom Hardy just to play to the crowd to help generate buzz for the charity that they're having the exhibition for. All right, finally, let me just leave you with this. Amir Khan is claiming that the Mayweathers, right, Junior and Senior, and Emanuel Stewart have expressed an interest in having him as a pupil. Let me just point out that Emanuel Stewart fighters in particular aren't ambush fighters. You really have to know how to throw a jab and how to stay in the pocket if you're an Emanuel Stewart fighter. Right? He really likes guys like Vladimir Klitschko, Andy Lee. Right? If you're not doing things the way Stewart believes you should, then he's going to let you know about it. Right? If you recall, he actually was with Jermaine Taylor, and that relationship didn't work out. Taylor had a good jab, but he didn't quite throw the jab the way Stewart wanted him to. And he didn't quite do things like tuck his chin, show up to training prepared like Stewart wanted him to. Right? And so all I'm saying with Amir Khan is he has a distinct ambush style. What I've found in boxing is when you have a guy who's been in the game for a few years and you actually start to tinker with his approach, and you have a guy who's an ambush fighter suddenly trying to fight like Andy Lee, that could be a recipe for disaster. Let me say too, I know that Marcus Maidana has recently changed trainers and he's now training with Robert Garcia, right? While Garcia has trained many different types, like let's say, Antonio Margarito. Understand that Garcia himself used to be a fighter, and Garcia was a technician, right? He was the opposite of Marcus Maidana. Garcia didn't come in throwing a lot of wild punches at wild angles, right? Garcia came in much more disciplined. Every punch had a role. His nickname, when he was a young man, was Grandpa, because he looked in the ring as if he were an older fighter, right? Now, all I'm saying is when you start playing with a guy's style. When a guy's a wildcat fighter, where his strength is the fact that he's unorthodox and opponents don't know what he's going to do next. When you start trying to fit him into that classic boxer mode, that might make the fighter more predictable. That might actually hurt his effectiveness. I would argue that Manny Pacquiao is much more structured today than he was a few years ago. But I would also argue that Manny Pacquiao a few years ago, if you look at his record, he was literally knocking everyone out. You were on the clock with Manny Pacquiao years ago. Right now, here, even when guys are hurt or knocked down, Shane Mosley fight, you notice they were able to get up and somehow they were able to avoid Manny Pacquiao the rest of the fight. Right? Guys like Marquez have gone from getting dropped when they fought Manny Pacquiao earlier in their careers, right in the first and second rounds, or first and third rounds, to now hanging around and actually completing the fight without touching the canvas. Right? Don't assume that because Khan goes to a world-renowned trainer, if he does make the switch, right, other than Freddie Roach, don't assume that that's going to fit Khan's skills like a glove. It could be that Khan's ambush style is literally the style that works best for him. I agree Khan can work on his inside game without a doubt, but I really wonder if Emanuel Stewart, who criticizes ambush fighters as an HBO commentator, just listen to his comments every time he does a Jean Pascal fight. I really wonder if a guy like that, who really likes structure, who, has even a great athlete like Vladimir Klitschko fighting an extremely controlled fight for the early part of each of his fights, right? You never see Vladimir Klitschko really open up and use his athleticism, right? Whoever the opponent is, he's shooting a jab, he's being patient, just like Lennox Lewis was, right? I really wonder if that kind of trainer would dovetail well with Amir Khan. Let me go further. Floyd Mayweather Sr., I have a hard time envisioning him working with a guy who doesn't intuitively know how to fight defensively, right? If you look at Senior's fighters, most of them kind of know how to operate out of a defensive shell. And I would argue that that might not be Amir Khan. We'll see how this story goes. We'll see if Khan stays with Freddie Roach or if he joins a new trainer. I'll say this as a gambler. If he's competitively matched in his first fight with a new trainer, I'll be on the sidelines on that fight because I won't know what Amir Khan is going to come out of the corner. Let me hear from you. Let me hear what you think. Leave your comments for all of us here online and visit us at DwyerBoxingNews.com. DwyerBoxingGame.com. Thanks for watching.